Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my all-time favorite bronzers. I did this video about 2 years ago and it was really popular, so I'm going to do a refreshed version just because favorites definitely changed. There are new formulas on the market and I really wanted to do an updated video. So if you want to see all my favorite luxury beauty bronzers, just keep watching. I'm going to start off with, I guess, the most sheer bronzer. This is something that I actually classify more as a skin enhancer versus a typical bronzer. And by the way, these are all going to be powder products. I decided to separate, like I did in my blush video, the creams and the powders, just because I feel like they're so different and I have just different favorites. So I wanted to split that up. I'm going to start with, this is probably actually my favorite bronzer that I'm going to be talking about. And this is the Hermes Healthy Glow Mineral Powder, the Plain Air, in the shade 02 Atlas. This has a whopping 18 grams of product, which is quite a lot. And I just love this product. Again, I would classify this more as a skin enhancer versus a true bronzer. You could get a deeper shade where it would act more as a bronzing powder, but I really like this because if you can tell, compared to my chest, this is about just like one shade deeper. So it's not going to contrast as much as a regular bronzer does. And sometimes I find with bronzing powders, you almost need like an in-between color to really get that bronzer to blend onto your skin beautifully, where this product just blends into the skin instantly. It just gives you that really healthy glow to your skin versus it being a detectable bronzer. I just really like this sort of product. So it's almost like when on your eyes, you know how you use like a transition shade, like you'd use a bronzer or like a really light beige color before you add deeper colors into the outer corner. It's kind of like doing that onto your skin. You just get a better blend. It looks more natural on the skin, even though you're adding maybe more product. It's going to look more natural because it's just going to allow you to blend that deeper bronzer into the skin a little bit better, if that makes sense. But besides that, because you could choose just a really light bronzer tone if you wanted to get that more skin enhanced look, this formula is truly remarkable. I hesitated recommending this when I first bought it because it is literally like the most pricey bronzer that I have in my collection. But everyone that I have recommended this to and everyone who has purchased it based off my recommendation has come back and said amazing things about this formula. I've heard nothing but good things. So because of that, I feel like I am way more willing to recommend it. And if you were only going to purchase one bronzer, I would suggest this because I can use it on my face and my eyes. It is just so beautiful. This formula is so silky. It is so velvety. It is a little bit of a harder pressed formula, so you're going to want to use a denser brush, something that's not super fluffy to pick up this sort of product. So I really like to use the Sonia G Niji Pro brush. I also really like the Rephr 22 brush. Again, these are nice and dense brushes, and they're going to just pick up a decent amount of product and apply it onto the skin a little bit easier. You could still use like a more fluffy brush. So this is a synthetic brush and this is the BK Beauty 104. It's just a little bit fluffier. So you're not going to get as much color payoff, but it's really nice for a more sheer application. So these are kind of my three favorite bronzer brushes that I like to use. If I have a harder pressed formula, I'm going to reach for the Sonia G Niji Pro or the Rephr 22. And then if I have something that's really nice and pigmented, but I want a sheer application, which is what I'll use for those more, again, more powdery formula bronzers that are just a typical powder. I'll go in with the BK Beauty 104 so I can just get a more sheer application on my skin. But this powder bronzer is beautiful. This is more, I would say, how it looks on the skin. It looks more matte, but not a drying matte. It gives you like a skin-like matte finish. It's a very natural finish. When you actually look at it, you can see like a little fleck of shimmer, but you can't actually detect the shimmer flecks on your skin. That is something that I personally do not like. I don't like when you can see detectable shimmer particles sitting on the skin. So for me, that's kind of my preference. If something is giving me more of a demi-matte finish, that is something that I typically enjoy more, unless it's like a nice, softly luminous glow. But this is just beautiful. This formulation, there's truly nothing like it. It's so smooth, it's so buttery, it blends like a dream, like it truly, I know this is overused for people to say that the product blends itself, but this truly does. It is absolutely gorgeous, and this would be like my #1 recommendation. I'm going to talk about something, I didn't want to talk about limited edition products, but this is still available, and this used to be a permanent edition to Chantecaille. This is the Chantecaille Sunstone Real Bronze. So Chantecaille just released their summer 2024 collection. This is still available. Now this is very different from the Hermes. It actually, I feel like, gives more of that similar version where it's almost like a skin enhancer. I will insert swatches of these products, but this is what I would say is the next lightest product. This is just a little bit, again, deeper than my skin tone. It's like one shade deeper than I am. So if you have darker skin tone, unfortunately this will not work for you because this is the only shade available. That's one downfall to Chantecaille. I wish they would release more shades, especially for deeper skin tones. But this formula is so beautiful. So this is a baked gelée. These baked gelée products are actually made in Italy. They start off as liquids and then they are baked down almost into a powder. They don't feel super powdery though. They feel like a very creamy powder. And these big gels, what make them really, really phenomenal is that they are like a cream powder hybrid. So you get that ease of application of a powder, you get that beautiful effect on your skin where it looks like you've applied a cream product, so it just melts into the skin, but you get that longevity of a powder, so it's going to have that really beautiful longevity like a powder bronzer would. Sometimes with cream products they tend to fade pretty fast, but you get that beautiful longevity, and this has an ever so soft sheen to it. Again, it's more like that skin-like sheen versus it actually having detectable shimmer particles. This is a really nice, I would classify this more as like a neutral tone. It gives me sort of like it's like a beigey tone. It doesn't lean too orange, but it also doesn't lean too red. I really don't like red tone bronzers on myself personally. But it's just a beautiful neutral tone bronzer that looks so gorgeous. This is a product I actually bought for my mom, and this is my mom's favorite bronzer now. She really is someone who tended not to use bronzers because she didn't like how they looked on her skin. She thought they looked a little bit heavy. But now that she's had this bronzer, she uses it all the time, and she said this is her favorite bronzer. So to me, that speaks really good things, especially if you have more mature skin. My mom is 65, and she really likes how this looks on her skin. It doesn't emphasize any texture on the skin or wrinkles or anything like that. It just gives you this beautiful glow. It is really easy to build up. Because it is that baked gelée, this is even harder pressed than this Hermes powder, so you're not going to want to go in with this BK Beauty brush. You are just going to want to go in with these denser brushes, so either the Rephr 22 or the Sonia G Need You Pro, and you're going to want to use a heavier hand than you think. Like normally with bronzer, I'll just go in with like, I don't know, 3 dabs and then get off the excess. With this sort of powder product, you can really dig in, like you know how you see some people on YouTube really go in? You can actually really go in with this sort of product and apply it onto the skin. And even though you're going in with like more product than you normally would, it looks really skin-like on your skin. It will just melt right in. You'll see after like 10 minutes, that product really just becomes one, and it actually looks like you've applied a cream bronzer. It is so gorgeous. If I'm going for that natural glam or that just really beautiful natural makeup look, I'm going to reach for either the Hermes or this Chantecaille bronzer because it really gives you that effect of like that almost no makeup vibe. So the Chantecaille Sunstone Real Bronze is another absolute favorite bronzer. Now we're coming up into more typical powder bronzer formulas, I want to say, but I'm still going to go with like the more sheer ones. So this is the Sisley Sun Glow Bronzing Gel to Powder. Again, this is a very similar formulation to that Chantecaille Sunstone Real Bronze. That bronzer, they have basically the exact same formula, that it's a baked gelée. So this again is made in Italy because all baked gelées are made in Italy. This, however, is definitely a deeper tone than the Chantecaille. This is a little bit more like powdery, I want to say. You can get a little bit more color payoff than the Chantecaille one. And this is also deeper and warmer. So this definitely has a more golden tone. If you have super fair, cool tone skin, this is not going to work for you. But if you have light, medium tan skin, this will work beautifully for you. I've actually gone completely through one of these compacts, and this is a second compact, I guess you could say. This is a backup that I bought, and this is just beautiful. This has a little bit more sheen than the Chantecaille as well. It has a little bit more of a gold sheen that's running through, but it's not an actual shimmer because, like I said, I don't like when you can see that detectable shimmer sitting on top of the skin. But this is just going to give you that beautiful golden glow. So if I'm going for maybe just a little bit more of a bronzed effect, but I still want that bronzer to look extremely natural on my skin, I almost want it to melt into my skin, where I just want it to look really natural, where my skin's just enhanced, where my skin just looks more beautiful and my bronze looks a little more enhanced versus it being like bronzer sitting on your skin. This is the type of product I will use when I just want that more sun-kissed look as well, because it does, you can see it is quite, it's probably like 2 to 3 shades deeper than my chest color. So this is going to give me that more bronzed effect, but it's going to look really skin-like because it is that gel to powder formula. So once you apply it onto your skin with your brush, if you wait about 10 minutes, it's just going to come together and look absolutely seamless. It's going to look like as if you've applied a cream product onto the skin. One of my favorite formulas, I will say I probably use this more in the summertime just because of the tone of it, because of how warm it is and it has that little bit of a sheen running through it. I also love to use this on the eyes. I'll just apply it all over the lids and in the crease, and I won't even apply anything further. That's all I'll do in the summertime, and this is just such a great formula. Just really beautiful. This just has a beautiful silky texture to it, and it is one of my absolute favorite bronzers. Love this. The Guerlain Terracotta Light, the Sun-Kissed Healthy Glow Powder, is definitely something that I had to mention in my favorite bronzers. I just feel like Guerlain formulas or Guerlain formulas, they're just a classic. They are known for their bronzers. And this one is my favorite of all the Guerlain bronzers. They have a typical just like matte formula, which is just one color, but I really like this Healthy Glow bronzer because this comes, if you can see, with different shades. So there are different shades in this little package. So we have like a beautiful warm tone, just matte shade. There's actually a really nice warm tone shimmer that has a little bit of a sheen. And there's also this beautiful like corally color that has a little bit of a sheen to it too. So it's almost like they added a little bit of a blush tone into this bronzer. So what I like to use this bronzer for, and what I really enjoy about this, is that I can use this just as a multi-purpose, all-in-one sort of product. So if I am feeling lazy or if I'm just on the go and I want to apply my products really quickly, I'll apply like a concealer or a tinted moisturizer, and then I'll just go in with this bronzer. And with this bronzer, my favorite brushes are probably the Rephr 22 or the BK Beauty 104. This just offers a little bit more pigmentation than the other bronzers I mentioned. This is a little bit of a harder pressed formula, so you're not going to see powder flying up when you dip your brush into this product. But because it's just a typical powder formula, you can get it really sheer. This actually is not very pigmented when you swatch it initially, but you can really build it up onto the skin as well and get that beautiful effect. But like I was saying, I really like to use this just when I'm on the go really quickly because I can apply this as an all-in-one. I'll just apply it all over the skin, and I don't need a separate blush or highlighter because it kind of has all those products all in one. So there's the bronzer, highlight, and blush all in one in this product, and you can just apply it all over to the skin, and it gives you that effect without having to use multiple products. So I really, really enjoy this product for that reason. And I like that it's really buildable. You can, again, get that sheer application, or you can build it up on the skin and get something a little bit more heavier. But because this is very buildable on the skin, I don't necessarily get that really high contrasted look, which some powder bronzers just give you that like too intense look. Really gorgeous. I think this color works really well for me. If I didn't say, I have the shade 03 Medium Warm. I think the shade, like the 01, the light warm, would work really well for me as well. I probably, if I ran out of this, I would probably pick up that one next, just because I'm really liking more light bronzers that don't give me that harsh contrasted look. So I'd probably pick up that one next if I were to buy this again. But really beautiful. This does have a slight fragrance to it. So if you really don't like fragrances, then this is something that I would avoid. But this is just a beautiful formula. I think it's a classic and it's a must-have in a luxury beauty collection, and it is truly one of my favorite powder bronzer formulas. Next up, we have the Surratt Artistique bronzer. I have the shade Soleil Doux. They do only have 2 shades in this. That is kind of the downfall with this bronzer, and why I don't mention it a lot is because there are only 2 shades available, and I really wish they would expand the line, because obviously if you have a deeper complexion than I do, this is going to be too light. So this type of powder, it is absolutely gorgeous. It is made in Japan. It is silky, silky, velvety smooth. Like it feels like a powder, not like a powder. It feels like a fabric. That is how smooth and velvety it is. It is just so gorgeous. If you are unaware of the Surratt formula, the powder formula, it's called a slurry. The technique they use is like a slurry technique. So these pigments start out as a liquid, and then they are dried down into this creamy suede formula. It's really interesting. So you kind of get that really nice hybrid effect where it applies like a powder, but it looks very cream-like on the skin. However, this is different than those baked gelées that I are talking about that are made in Italy that are really hard pressed, that are like baked into the pan. These are very different, and the effect is very interesting. Where this feels very velvety, very smooth, that suede effect is a very great term for it because it truly does look like suede. It just looks so silky smooth on the skin. It is very buttery, it is very creamy. It's a very creamy powder. I guess that's the best word to use for it. This would be another formula that I would really recommend for mature skin because it is very flattering. But with this formula, it's very different because I would actually not use these brushes, these really dense brushes. I would use a more fluffy brush like this BK Beauty 104 because when you dip your brush into this product, you will see powder fly away. That's just how this powder formula is. It is quite powdery, but it doesn't look powdery on the skin at all. It looks very velvety, very smooth, very cream-like. Even though it does offer quite nice pigmentation, you can build it onto the skin really sheerly, so you get that sheer wash of color, but you can also build it up so it looks quite intense, which I guess is maybe why there's only 2 shades, because you can get that more intense look, but I do think they need more shades. You can see it's definitely deeper than my skin tone, so for me this works as a true bronzer product. But this formula from Surratt is just very unique. How it sits on the skin, how it blends on the skin is very unique. It is one of the most beautiful powder formulas that I have in my collection because this formulation, it is just so different from other powders on the market. You truly have to feel this yourself to know what I'm talking about when I say that Surratt formulas are truly different than others on the market. There's nothing like it. One of the most beautiful, beautiful products. And this is like a true matte. It doesn't look like that dry matte on the skin. It gives you, because this powder is so creamy, you get that like creamy quality on the skin where it just looks healthy, gives you a beautiful glow. This is definitely more of a neutral tone bronzer. It doesn't lean like too warm or too cool. So this is a really just beautiful neutral tone bronzer. And it's one of my favorites. And then I just have one more to mention, and this is the Valentino Bronzer. And I'm mentioning it quickly because I don't really know what is happening with this bronzer. It has been out of stock for like over a year, but this is definitely one of my favorite powder bronzers on the market. And again, I don't know what's happening with it, so I just want to mention it quickly. The formula actually really reminds me of the Surratt with how it is like that powdery product where, again, I would probably go in with a fluffier brush to apply it onto the skin. But it is so velvety and creamy, this formula. It feels like a powder to cream. So it's going to apply onto the skin like a powder, but melt into the skin like a cream would, kind of like I've said with a lot of those other formulas, because that's truly just the formulas I like. I like my skin to look really natural. I want my skin to just look enhanced. I don't want you to be able to detect that I am wearing bronzer. I just want that dimension to my skin, that healthy glow. And this powder gives me exactly that. This is a really beautiful tone for a bronzer. It is definitely more on the warm side. It has an ever so soft sheen, but again, the sheen is more of that skin-like quality versus it being actual shimmer. It truly just looks like skin. Gorgeous formula. I love this. I really hope it comes back into stock soon because there's truly just nothing like these powders on the market. They're very unique for that velvety, smooth, creamy quality that they give on the skin. Again, the most comparable I would say is the Surratt formula, but the Surratt formula feels almost more like a typical powder, where this is just a very creamy powder. It is truly remarkable, truly beautiful. So I wanted to just mention that one as well. But please let me know all your favorite luxury beauty bronzers as well. If I missed any of your favorites, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear all about your favorite formulas because I definitely get inspiration from you guys on what to pick up next. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.